Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation Season 4, Episode 8. It's called Future Imperfect. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. This episode sees Riker be knocked out by a gas, and so he's in danger. What's happening? After a mysterious beacon from a planet. It could be Romulans in hiding, could be something else to go out and investigate, but he ends up passing out. And he wakes up seemingly 16 years in the future, where he is now captain of the Enterprise. Picard is an admiral, and not stationed on the ship, although of course he does appear, because obviously we want to see what Picard does in this future. But we see various other characters who have ranked up in different uniforms and whatnot. Honestly, it was kind of weird seeing, as I shall sing it in song, Data in red.
Completely unnecessary.
Most things worth having in life are unnecessary. So, yes. Why that was my first thought when I saw Data in Red was to sing Data in Red to at least the attempted tune of Lady in Red. I don't know, but it was, and that's where we're starting this on.
I mean, the episode's okay, so I mean, you can't be insulting it that much. It's not like it's an amazing episode that you're dragging down.
I enjoyed the episode. I mean, it wasn't the greatest, but I thought I think it was pretty solid.
It's all right. It does suffer, I think, from going too long in its premise without kind of any, because obviously as viewers we're like, okay, this isn't right the whole time, and yet that you have to give them a bit. But I think it goes too long without Riker even having a hint of anything.
Do you know, I wasn't really thinking about this as I was watching it, but you making this complaint is almost identical to the complaint you made about another episode not that long ago.
Is it?
Yeah. We were talking about, it was the one with Crusher, and she was in like the bubble world.
Well, clearly, when they do these kinds of episodes, I have a problem with the pacing consistently, it seems.
Apparently you do. I didn't really have much of a problem with it there. I didn't really have much of a problem with it here. I kind of liked how he sort of quickly snapped out of it. Like, there was one thing. It was just one thing that told him that this was wrong. Because he has a lot of trouble believing all this, obviously. He wakes up and Crusher keeps calling him Captain. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm Commander Riker, not Captain Riker. He's like, no, you're Captain Riker. And she's even, she protects. I think what makes it work for me is that there's signs to us. I know, I mean, when I say the signs to us, obviously we expect that it's all not real because we're not jumping 60 years in the future. Unless there's like time travel back that way, I suppose. But that doesn't feel what the episode's doing. But there's hints to us as to exactly what's going on, even if Riker's not seeing them. Specifically with his child, Jean-Luc Riker, which we'll talk about. But there was like little signs where it was every so often he'd look for information, it wouldn't be there. But then once the kid became aware that he was looking for something, all of a sudden the information would like reveal itself almost immediately, as if it was once he kind of like got the computer, for lack of a better word, to kind of like process the idea, then it would happen. It was basically every time Riker tried to look up something on the computer about his past or about what's happened in the last 16 years.
I think that was one of those things that felt a little bit weird to me, not because it was, this is out of place and we're supposed to be picking up on it, but the idea that, okay, in 16 years, the technology has somehow gotten worse, right, at this point, and Riker's just not questioning it that much.
Man, there's a reason for it. They give him a get
They
out.
do. No, they do, and that like gives him a pass on the first thing, but it goes on, and and when he does finally snap out of it, he acknowledges that no, this shouldn't have taken that long.
Well, what do you mean it goes on and on? He only goes to the computer twice, and it's the second time that he snaps out of it.
But it's not just the computer, is it? It's the other things like the turbo lifts as well, because that's the first instance where it's brought up. Is when he tries to he tries to go to a different floor, and the turbo lift doesn't at first. It hesitates, and that's when I think it's Crusher who tells him, "Oh no, the systems are on the fritz. They're not quite working." So it's across a variety of things. It's not just the search results that's the problem.
Yeah. See, I don't have a problem with this because to me, this is the point is that we are picking up on these details and going, no, it's trying to hide its its shortcomings. It's trying to hide what it's not been able to recreate or do. So, and obviously, we don't necessarily know exactly what's going on. And I do think there's a nice swerve here where, once the Romulan, what's his rank? I can't remember. He's Jakar from Babylon 5. That's the thing. As soon as he started speaking, I'm like, it's Jakar again. Jakar's back. Tomalak, Commander Tomalak. When he shows up, and he starts asking about Base 23 or whatever it is, and Riker's like, this is all a bit weird. Like, Base 23 is like a secret location. And, Picard's like, again, it's the fake Picard in this simulated world. No, Base 23 has not been that important to the Federation for years now, Riker. And I'm like, okay, alright, so naturally you jump to, okay, so this is some sort of Romulan plan to get him to reveal this. This was a trap all along. And I do kind of like that it reveals itself as that, and it kind of pulls an Inception. Not a dream within a dream per se, but a holodeck within a holodeck kind of idea.
No, I agree. I kind of liked that that point of the episode. Because, very early on, it sets up the idea that it's Romulans down on the planet before anything actually goes wrong. So that's in our minds the entire time.
Yeah. Honestly, if I have a complaint about the episode, because I don't really agree with your pacing complaint. I actually think all that stuff's really good. My only real complaint is that the linchpin of the episode, which is supposed to be the kid, who seems to be important to the overall charade, and once it reveals, and when it goes into the holodeck, the Romulans are doing this to him. They put him in a cell, and the kid's there too. And then you start to speculate that maybe this is also not real, and that the kid is still kind of the linchpin of what's going on. When it then reveals that the kid essentially has these devices, he was left here by his mother on his own, and that this essentially fancy super version of a holodeck that can just do it from these like beam post things that he's got. It's basically there to make sure he has something to do, and he's not, alone, quote unquote. And the idea that he was keeping Riker here, he set out the beacon because he just couldn't be alone anymore. I do think that could have landed better if they'd made more of a point of giving the kid a bit more of a story in the fake world to begin with. I feel like when I got to the end and it's like, because I don't know, I loved that he revealed that it wasn't just, because at first I was like, oh, another human looking alien, but so I liked it when he like sort of dropped the cloaking. It was like, no, he's actually got a completely different look to him. He's completely
pretty unique.
Yeah, so I appreciated that, and I liked that it ended with Riker saying, no, you don't have to stay here, you can come with us, we'll take you somewhere, and it ends with them beaming up to the Enterprise. I think it would have landed had a bit more impact if we actually cared a little bit about the kid, and it wasn't just because he wasn't malicious. It wasn't like he was doing anything evil necessarily.
Misguided with the kidnapping, I guess.
Sure, yeah.
but it's understandable, and Riker does understand as well, so I think that's important. I think what I feel like you're getting at is more during the sequences. He's not really much of a character. He's often just. He's there for Riker to interact with, and to see Riker's reaction to having a kid, for example.
Yeah, he's there for the shock value of, oh shit, he's got a kid who's, 12 years old, so clearly he doesn't have this 16 years of memory. He has to, because the first half of the episode is largely, even though we know it's going to be revealed what's really going on, at least as far as the character's concerned and as far as the shock value goes, we're dealing with the idea of him learning all these things that have changed, him having a kid, a wife that died. And what gives it away, I thought, was a nice callback to another episode. Because both the Romulan commander was in a previous episode, which I only remembered, really, because it was the actor who plays Jakar in Babylon 5, because I recognised him again.
To be fair, I think even if you didn't remember,
they mention him, yeah.
Contextually, it works, because when I think at first he's an ambassador, Tomalak, in the dream world. And Riker, obviously, only having the same amount of memories, theoretically, as what we do, essentially. Recognizes the name as like, hey, him, and it's like, okay, that must be one of the ones we saw before.
Yeah, absolutely. But I did recognize him, and
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so like these shock value things of like all these things that have changed. But so that was one callback to another episode, and then the other callback, of course, is the wife that died that they show on the screen when he gets to watch these memories, which really raised the question to me: but is the Enterprise recording every place at all times so it can play back this footage later? Or does Riker actually initiate these because he's like, that's a good home movie moment. Computer, record this. Like, I don't know. It sounded like he could just pick any date and it would show him what happened in the room. Looks a bit creepy.
Yeah.
the
That's a
creepy
bit weird.
side. But it's this. And I'll admit, I didn't actually recognize her. But as soon as he started talking about her and he explained who it was, I'm like, oh, that's actually a really cool callback. Because if you remember, this was the woman, the fake woman in the holodeck that he kind of fell for. And so the idea that this computer is able to read his mind and search for who he cares about the most, or maybe not the most, because I'd still argue that Troy ultimately is going to be the love of life and all that, but at least relevant, in recent times, like who he's felt the most for, it's almost this mistake it makes. And I kind of like that element of it, that it makes a mistake based on it doesn't understand that this wasn't a real person, and this is what completely gives it away.
Yeah, I think is it the kid that kind of makes the mistake more? I feel like it's the kid kind of like mind reading a little bit, right?
Oh, if it's the kid that's mind reading, yeah, it's the kid that makes the mistake then. Yeah,
because I think it's the kid who's like, I mean, that was my impression at least. That's how he was constructing these these things. He was taking it from Riker's mind and memories. Again, not maliciously, but just for the familiarity, for it to work.
Yeah, just so there's one real person that's there that he can interact with. Which I guess makes sense why he makes him his father in this world. It's like, hey, he'll care for me. He will make this effort to...
And it's ultimately what he does in the second scenario as well. Once he knows kind of what sort of person Riker is and how he's going to react.
Yeah, now they're trapped together. Now they're both on the same side and they're fighting by side kind of thing, yeah. I think those elements and the way this alien thinks about trying to win Riker over, again, it's not malicious. It's manipulative, but it's not manipulative in a malicious way. He's just trying to do what he thinks is right, and ultimately when he learns, it doesn't put up a fight at the end. As soon as Riker explains that this is not how this can happen, he's quite, he accepts this and accepts the offer to go. It's never...
Yeah, Riker's immediately like, hey, come with us. You have plenty of company.
So, there's a lot of other things to talk about in the changes, of course. What they do to make people older, costume changes. Obviously, I mentioned Data in Red. Geordi, of course, not having the visor. Fun to see that for an episode. I wonder if LeVar Burton was just like, I get to shoot an episode without wearing that stupid thing in my face.
Maybe. I have to imagine he just got used to it, right?
Probably. Yeah, it's
like in the same way that you're used to just wearing glasses, whereas if I wore glasses, it's like, no, this just feels wrong.
Oh yeah, it's not as bad, but I'm thinking the same way that, like, what was it called, Michael Dorn and Brent Spiner, like them having to sit in the makeup chair for hours, like, and the rare occasion, when Brent Spiner a few episodes ago got to do the wait, did he appear? Because he played the scientist as well, right? Doing some.
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did.
So, like, when he got to do that a few episodes ago, I'm sure he loved that day when he was shooting that side of that. Obviously, he had to do all the other sides of that scene too, so he had a lot of work to do. But when he was shooting the human being side of that scene, I bet he loved it. He just had to do some hair and makeup, just some normal hair and makeup, no like fancy makeup, none of this pretending to be an android.
Nothing crazy. Yeah.
Because
that said, I imagine his makeup, it's just one uniform tone, so it's quite an easy thing still, right?
I imagine it's probably much quicker than the Worf makeup for sure. The Klingon makeup, I imagine, takes a bit of time to do. All the ridges.
I would assume so. You got to apply the prosthetics, go over the paint,
Yeah. Poor Michael Dorn probably had to get up at like 4 a.m. just so he could go and sit in the chair and get made up for the day's shooting.
Do you reckon they get paid extra? Like, obviously they're not paid by the hour, but I just mean, do you think it's work? When they're negotiating contracts and stuff, do they work it? Like, look, I'm sat in that makeup chair 3 hours longer than anyone else every single day. That should be, taken into consideration. I'm
sure in theory it's supposed to be, but because they don't get paid by the hour, they don't, like, it's like, okay, well, we have to pay them extra, so we'll hire a lesser known actor so that their overall amount is lower anyway. So they just work around it.
I think it's more when they come to renegotiating.
Sure. I don't know if
they're like against other cast members, and they're like, hey, look, I want more than whoever who's got a nice easy job makeup wise. That's not Patrick Stewart, obviously.
Hey, if they have any amount of power, I'm not so sure the cast on this did at any point, but I'm sure there's examples where that probably does play a factor. In this, I think Michael Dorn and Brent Spiner were just happy to have a regular gig on a show that was successful.
Possibly, yeah.
But no, it was fun to see. I like noticing that they had the little the stripes behind the badge to represent rank instead of the pins on the collar. I thought that was an interesting little difference. Data looked weird in red. I do not recommend it coming back.
You'd get used to it.
It's funny because other characters have switched colours and it's been fine, but for some reason Data and Red just look so wrong.
I think part of it is his the color of the skin tone that he has.
Yeah.
Because it's not like quite a natural color. It's just off natural, right? It's just like that kind of pale green, and I think the fact that it kind of, you get used to seeing that with the the yellow, and it kind of works. I think the red clashes with it more. It kind of draws notice to it. Speaking
of costumes, the kid at one point when he hurt himself. And again, this was a distraction tactic. It was like just as Riker was getting into something else. Oh, the kid's had an injury playing some made-up sci-fi game. The kid was wearing this weird like onesie outfit that had like an extra layer on one side.
Yeah, it was kind of like almost like a wetsuit.
It was like a wetsuit, but one half of it, like in a sort of designy way, had like almost like motorcycle jacket padding on one side.
Yeah,
it was weird. Also, there's a lot of trombone because the episode starts with Riker's birthday. They're all celebrating his birthday in the on 10 forward.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always down for Riker tromboning. Yeah.
Oh sure. And
it's always amusing.
Like, sorry to interrupt your celebrations, number one, but we got a call. Put down the cake and get back on the bridge, you slacker. It's just kind of the gist of it. But yeah, I thought it was a fine episode. I enjoyed the discovery of all the various elements. You had things like Troy works with Picard, who's got a goatee in this world, in this future.
Gotta do something, right?
Yeah, they never really explain because he shows up in like a Romulan warbird, and obviously Riker's in shock about this. And they then explain that, okay, they're working towards a peace treaty with the Romulans, they're going to be allies. They never quite explain why Picard's commanding a warbird, though. I don't know if they ever actually...
On just assumption here, I would say, logically, if I'm trying to create some sort of reason, it would be, as an act of good faith, the Romulans gave up one of their warbirds. Here's the cloaking technology. And that's part of the Federation fleet right now.
Okay, yeah, okay, I could see it. But I was expecting them to bring it back up at some point, and they never really did. And another thing I liked was when Riker did sort of have his snapping moment where he realised this was all a charade, and he goes into the bridge, and he starts just questioning things quickly. I like the things that he asks. He asks Worf where he got his big, because Worf's got a big scar on the side of his face, and he's like, where'd you get that scar? What mission, what date, blah blah. And then he goes to Data and asks Data to calculate how long it'll take to get to wherever they're going. And Data is like, well, at warp 1, no, not warp 1, warp 7, warp 8, go on, tell me. And again, he tries to make some excuse, well, there's interference from, and then he uses a contraction, and then Riker's just like, no, I used a retraction, you can't explain that, you said can't, alright, enough of this, drop this right now.
Yeah. I did like the back third the most, I think. Once it got to that point, then the second, reality, and because that went a lot quicker as to as soon as stuff started going wrong, he started picking up on it. And then the ending, which I did quite like again, the point of it, and the way it was handled by Riker. Thought that was quite fun.
Yeah. And I think part of it as well, the story starting with his birthday and him realizing that the people around him aren't real. Not so much that Riker has been ever portrayed as like a loner or anything like that, but I think there's something to this episode of showing like how important everyone around him is to him, by showing the story of this kid who has no one, and Riker ultimately realizing, no, these people around me aren't the real people. Like, I need the real people. I need the real Troy. I need the real Picard, and so on and so on. The facsimile is never going to be enough. I think there's something to that, and maybe something to be said about how this show uses the holodeck, and Riker's, even though he's someone who does use it a lot, he has a great understanding and knows that he needs the real people around him. It's never an actual real substitute for everything. So,
except like that one episode where it was, and that was kind of the point.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's why it ties back to that episode. Is that this is kind of almost the answer to that one, which is like, okay, he kind of get lost in it a little bit that one time, but ultimately he knows that the real relationships that he has with everyone around him are far more important, and he could never actually live or survive off of just those fake engagements.
Yeah. It is something this show has played with a couple of times, because we had the other one the guy with like the social anxiety. I can't remember his name now, but that one where and that was about the dangers of kind of getting caught up in the fantasy, right?
Barclay.
Oh, well done, you.
I'll remember it because they call him Broccoli. I was trying to think what the joke name was.
Oh no, yeah, kudos. Yeah, I'll give you that one. But yeah, so it's obviously something that the show's interested in tackling from time to time.
Yeah. So I think they did a pretty decent job of doing that. And I know what I mean. Obviously, we got the connection with the last episode with her appearance, and that was a really fun way of like having them snap out of it. But talking about it and like realizing that it's kind of like a, the yin and yang to that episode. It's the yang to that yin, if you will. I think that actually even raises it just a little nudge to make it feel a bit more thought out than just that.
It makes them feel thematically linked rather than just we picked a character from any random episode for him to realize it was fake.
Yeah, so that's a nice touch. It's a nice touch. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's an amazing episode. It's definitely not like got maybe quite the emotional impact that maybe it could have done. Perhaps if they had lent into the kid a bit more in the first chunk, or
which is a little frustrating because it has such a solid point for its ending that if it did have that emotional resonance, would have been a great ending rather than just a solid ending. Yeah,
so that's a good episode. Good episode. Maybe not one of the standouts, but good, solid episode. So coming up next time then in episode 9, we have an episode called Final Mission. Here's the description in IMDb. Before leaving for Starfleet Academy, Wesley Crushers accompanies Captain Picard on a dangerous mission. That's really simple and vague.
Yeah, but the implication is it's the end of Wesley.
I mean, that is an exciting idea. So maybe we'll see Wesley's Bon Voyage next week.
At last.
I'm all for it, quite frankly. But that is this week's episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. So do like and subscribe and all the usual stuff. It does help us out a lot and is a nice and easy way to show your support. You can also support us financially over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses for your trouble. Catch us on the Twitters at mail_fuzz for channel updates. And of course, you can check out other stuff that we're doing. Myself and Tara have been working through Twilight Zone. We just started working through Babylon 5, so there's other classic sci-fi shows if you're interested in catching more of those and tagging along for the ride. But there you go. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek, guys. And when it comes to the ladies, Wesley Crusher, at least for now, is in complete control.